Meera. I'm a senior at Torrey Pines High School, and today I'm going to be talking about the importance of diversity in STEAM. So when I was preparing for this speech, I was thinking, what maker programs have I done? In elementary school, I did things like Destination Imagination, I did Science Olympiad in middle school, and I did DigiGirls when I was in middle school too. And for the past couple of years, I've been volunteering at the Reuben H. Fleet Science Center. And there I work with the patrons and help them design whatever their imagination can think of, just using recycled materials. And that's been really inspiring. And also with STEAM, there's an introduction of art. So ever since I've been 5 years old, I've been doing Indian dance, Bharatanatyam, and that's been a really influential part to the person I am today. So one shout out to my mentor, Carol Willing. She was my Destination Imagination coach in elementary school, and I've known her ever since then. And even like last year, she helped me with my programming homework, and she's exactly what a mentor is supposed to be. She doesn't tell you how you're supposed to get there, but she asks you the right question, leads you to the solution. She's a programmer and an MIT grad, and I'm so glad I know her. So you might be wondering why there's a toilet paper on the screen. So a couple of years ago, I was part of a group of girls of the International Space Station Academy that sent an experiment to the International Space Station. So we went to the first meeting and we had a toilet paper, and they said we had to model an experiment that would fit in the dimensions of the toilet paper. We all looked at each other like, how are we supposed to do this, And then after a lot of teamwork and creativity, we finally decided to test the growth of alum crystals. And alum is a spice used in the kitchen. And we sent it up into space. And it came back after a month in space and came back from Kazakhstan. We opened the box, and then we put it underneath an electron microscope. And we could see the crystals had completely transformed due to the microgravity. And it was amazing, thanks to BWise, Better Education for Women in Science and Engineering, through the San Diego Science Alliance, for giving me this opportunity to send something into space and to be part of a group of girls who always thought outside of the box. So one really important theme through all of these programs is the importance of influential mentors. They can help you when you're down and also be a source of inspiration. So one of them is Steph Dawes. I met her last year through peer advocacy groups at Girl Scouts, and she's a STEM specialist. She's been working really hard over the last couple of years to increase the number of STEM programs in Girl Scouts. This could be How to Be a Vet, or all the way to Technology Goddess, which is a programming workshop. One thing that's great about Girl Scouts is that they have such a wide reach. There are over 31,000 members in San Diego, let alone. And the thing about Girl Scouts is they introduce girls to STEAM at such a young age, and then continue the interest all the way into high school. So that's why I think Girl Scouts is such a great program to keep the interest, because in middle school, it's a really crucial time when girls feel self-conscious and they're dropping out of these STEM programs. So I think Girl Scouts is a great way to keep the interest. So when we think about diversity, the first thing that pops into your mind is gender. So one question is the STEM index getting any better? As we see here, the percent of computer science graduates of women have decreased from 37% to 18%. And I can even attest to that. Last year, I took my first computer programming class at my school, and out of 35 kids, there are only about 5 girls. And I know people are like, just focus on your work. It doesn't matter who's around you. But for me, it was really hard to complete my assignments without anyone who had the same thought process that I did. And even my teacher, he would be like, oh, guys, here's the next assignment. And they would add girls as like we were like a second thought or just an addition to the class. And I think it's really important that we create an environment where girls feel welcome and is much more comfortable for us to work in. As we can see, only 13% of civil engineers are girls, and only 6% of mechanical engineers are women. But the thing is that women represent half of our population and only 28% of the science and engineering workforce, so they are not being equally represented. And as Bill Gates says, any country where half their population is not being allowed to reach their full potential is not going to be competitive. Especially in this day and age when STEAM is how our country is going to progress, we need to have women offer their solutions and better our tomorrow. So here we can see that girls are interested in STEM at a young age. But then as they get to executive positions, only 11% of them are being represented, compared to the 89% of males. So these are the issues. These are the issues that we're facing, and these are the problems we have to be addressing. So that's why we need people like Dr. Sarah Esper. She has a PhD in computer science from UCSD, and she created a program called Thought STEM, which works with children ages 8 to 18 on creative ways to learn programming. So I talked on the phone with her a couple days ago, and I asked her, what are your problems with diversity in your programs? And she told me a very interesting story. She was traveling up the elevator to one of her classes, and there was a family with her, and they had a daughter and a son, and then the mom. And then she asked the mom, are you sending your children to the program that I'm holding? And she's like, yeah, I'm sending my son. And the mom asked, are you sending your daughter? Sarah asked, are you sending the daughter? And the mom was like, oh, I didn't even think about it. So from that, we can see there are just gender roles that are being perpetrated through generations. And the fact is that we have to have people like Dr. Sarah Esper go out there, encourage girls to attend these programs, because sometimes people just keep these traditional roles in their mind and don't even think about sending their daughters to programs like these. This even transcends into the workplace. There's the idea of the glass ceiling. Women and minorities they're not able to attain these positions. They can see them, but they even have the qualifications to get there, but they're unable to do so. So maybe there's some ways to get around that. The first way is to understand what the issue women are having and how other women have gotten through this. So maybe we can look at the 26 women of the Fortune 500 companies and see how they have transcended their way into these companies. And also have a strategic plan for your career. Even if you're in middle school or in high school or even in college, just plan ahead. What can you do in your future? And that'll propel you for any position that you want to get. #STEM. So Danica Patrick is a NASCAR driver, and she is sponsored by GoDaddy, which is a technological company that is mostly used by women. It's a website, and she has #STEM in her car, and she has something really important to say. She says, women think about things differently than men. You're lacking an important perspective when their ideas are not being included. And it's really important that in this day and age, let's say you have a team and they're all thinking the same way. You have to be able to approach it in different aspects, and women and minorities can bring that to the table. So when you think about diversity, the second thing that comes to mind is culture and race. So people say, oh, why do you even need diversity in science? So first is a loss of excellence and a loss of talent. And the third thing is a demographic shift. So minorities are going to have a turning point in their population, and they're going to constitute a bigger part than our population, and therefore need to be represented in the STEAM field, because that's how our country is going to progress. So we can see here that Asian Americans, 32% of them have an interest in STEM and are good at math. And then only 7% of African Americans and 11% of Latinos are good at math and have an interest. And we need to be reaching out to these people so that they're having more of these opportunities. So like we talked about in gender, the glass ceiling and such, what are the issues that we're facing in regards to culture? Their unemployment rates are higher for minorities. More minority PhDs go into agriculture and physical sciences rather than computer science and engineering. And more minority students enroll disproportionately in two-year colleges, which are not equipped for someone to get a technical degree. And one group that is majorly affected is women of color in corporate management positions. 71% of them lack mentorship. They don't see people like them in the fields. And 53% of them believe the corporate diversity programs are not helping them integrate into the company. So all these statistics are great, but how are we going to fix it? What are we going to do? We have to start implementing maker programs at the young age, so it influences the next generation. So it starts with learning. That starts with kids coming to things like this, being introduced to geology, to chemistry, and then removing all the parameters and going into things that push their minds and make them think outside of the box. And that will lead them to innovation and eventually make products cheaper and more accessible, which is one of the main goals of STEAM. And even in making, women and girls face some problems. 1 in 3 lack mentorship, 1 in 6 feel excluded from making, and 1 in 6 feel they have a culture of bias against them that they're not able to go through with these courses and with these projects. So what are the 3 things we could do to help girls feel more comfortable in STEAM programs? First is parent engagement. You have to sign your daughters up for these events. You have to take them to things like this. You need to encourage them to take AP science classes in school. The second is mentorship. Even if you're in high school or you're in college or you're a professional in the field, you have to give your time just for 5 minutes, explain what challenges you had and how you were able to transcend them, because that is going to help a girl in the long run. And finally is community. Like, in my computer programming class, we have to start creating community that is comfortable for everyone. Don't use jargon that people might not understand. Make it more comfortable. Make it more inviting. And this is possible ways how we can engage minorities into the STEAM programs. First is building maker environments in libraries and schools, so you're cutting out that transportation issue. Then you can design projects that are appealing for the group you're planning to help. And then develop initiatives that are targeted towards them. This could even be like the Intel's, women, programs for women, or even local organizations like Solar Turbines and Be Wise that are putting funding towards helping girls and minorities. You should encourage parents to embrace a mess. If your kids are building a circuit board on the kitchen table or they're drawing or something, don't put it aside. Encourage them. Leave it out. And then you're pushing them to, even if they didn't get it the first time, that they can go back and keep on continuing the process. Align coding with current trends. So let's say you're trying to teach a group of 7-year-olds about object-oriented programming. You're not going to use Minecraft or something. You'd probably use Frozen and explain how the animators created the program or created the movie and how Anna and Elsa came to be. And finally, include facilitators that create a safe environment. Over my 17 years, I've been to a variety of workshops through Be Wise, through Girl Scouts, and they've always been facilitated by strong women, and that has only given me hope for the future. When I'm in an issue, I can see them, and I say I can see myself in their position, and it gives me more hope for the future. Okay, so that's all good, but what are we going to do now? What are you going to do when you go home? Here's some call to action. Join the largest coding event in history, the Hour of Code, from December 8th to the 14th. There's a 2015 DuPont Challenge, which basically you write an essay that solves an issue that we're facing right now, and this is open for kids from kindergarten to 12th grade. You could join robotics in your school, you could do a science fair, do Science Olympiad, go to the Reuben H. Fleet Science Center and tinker in the tinkering studio, and participate in after-school activities. But then for the adults in the audience, encourage your daughters, encourage your sons, encourage young people around you to go to these programs and be a mentor. Like I said before, even if you're just a high school student, if you see that 5-year-old girl, doesn't know, needs help, with a tool or anything, you could be their first step and be inspirational to them for the future. Volunteer. Organizations like Girl Scouts and Be Wise are always looking for people who feel confident in a certain field. And if you have some time that you can give, they would be really appreciative of that. And finally, ask for help. If you don't know how to do something, if you feel confused, don't be afraid to stand up and ask for help, because that's how you're going to better yourself and become more involved with STEAM. So I want to thank Victor and staff for giving me the opportunity to speak at this event. And if you have any questions, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. Thank you.